Scamming is one of Skyblock's biggest problems. It always has been, and it probably always will be. Some of my recent previous videos have showcased just how easy it is to get scammed, and especially for new players. Now, as Skyblock has evolved, so have the scammers. In some instances, Skyblock scams can be calculated and elaborate, and in other instances they can be kind of rash and regretful. Now, the important thing to note is it isn't just the new players that get scammed. I honestly think that the percentage of people who have been scammed on Skyblock is probably over 50%. But how do you avoid it? In some scenarios, it's easier said than done. Today, we're going to be taking a look at some of the most popular Skyblock scams, hearing some first-hand accounts of people who have been scammed, and also learning how we can avoid them and what to watch out for. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. First of all, a large amount of scams emanate from the trade menu. You know, when you like /trade someone, or you crouch and right click at someone? Yeah, that sort of trade menu. And the main reason people take to trade menus is because basically they don't have requirements to do certain things. For example, if you wanted to apply Withered to your sword, okay, you will then need to apply Witherblood to your weapon, which requires mining skill level 30. Which means if you don't have mining skill level 30, then you cannot apply Withered to your sword. Alternatively, you can buy a sword that already has Withered on, but if you want to do it this way, someone else will have to apply the Witherblood for you. Now, there's many variations of this situation. There's many more reforged stones that have requirements. There's also requirements to start dungeon items with essence, whatever it is. If you're going to trust somebody with your item, you always want adequate collat. And what collat is short for collateral. Basically, if you give somebody an item, you want to make sure that they're going to give the item back and you don't get scammed. For instance, if you traded your living dagger to someone, you're going to need basically them to give you something that adds up to around about 7 million coins. So for instance, if they did run off with your living dagger, you would still have the same amount of coins, if you know what I mean. It makes sense. So if you trade an item to someone, make sure you always have collateral, or else the person has no repercussion for just running off with your item. They've got nothing to lose. Another thing in terms of like trade menu scams, a very common one is with the Juju shortbow. And to craft the Juju shortbow, you need 32 enchanted quartz blocks. And as you can see, 32 enchanted quartz blocks is around about 3.8 million coins. Now, wool looks very similar to quartz, okay? There's wool and there's enchanted wool. You have to be very careful, because what sometimes people do is replace the quartz with wool, put it in the trade menu and hope that you don't realise. So for instance, say for instance if you didn't have the requirement, or you just needed somebody to craft a Juju shortbow for you. This happened quite a lot when you didn't actually need the requirement to use the Juju shortbow. It used to be Enderman Slayer 3. In dungeons, you didn't even need Enderman Slayer 3 to use it. So potentially people who don't have Enderman Slayer 3 who can't craft it were still able to use it and needed somebody to craft it. So for instance, if you trade these items over to someone, you get collat, that's fine. They might say, oh sorry, I don't actually have the requirement. They then trade you the items back, and they put wool instead of quartz, and you don't realise. Now, back in the day, quartz were worth a lot more coins when the Juju shortbow was worth way more. Therefore, you've been massively scammed. But that can be said with a lot of things as well. For instance, a Necron's handle and a Bejeweled handle, something that looks similar. It has the same item sort of skin, a stick and a stick. Or for instance, an iron sword. If you traded someone a Hyperion, and then they trade you it back and they replace it with just a different iron sword, if you don't have like a resource pack on, then you might not realise, or if you're not being vigilant. And as you can see here, right here, the exact same thing happened to Too Much Havoc. Crafting Juju replacing with quartz. For instance, if we take a look at the two items I have in my inventory right now, the two iron swords, the first one is a Hyperion, the second one is an undead sword. If somebody put either of these two items in a trade menu, you wouldn't know which is which, unless you hovered over it, okay? But if you were being told and you trusted the person that, say for instance, oh yeah, I'm giving you this Hyperion back and it's actually an undead sword, then if you trust the person and you don't hover over it, I mean, first of all, that'd be a bit silly not to, but if you didn't, and you did trust the person, yeah, you could quite easily be scammed. Now, what you can do is install a resource pack called First Sky Reborn. Okay, if we apply this, we'll see what happens. Okay, it reskins all the Skyblock items, so we can now clearly see that this is a Hyperion, and this is not a Hyperion. I mean, that's the bottom line. So maybe if you're trading items with someone, it may be best just to put this resource pack on, even if you don't like using it. I personally don't like it. I just think it makes the game look, I don't know, just not clean. But yeah, I'd say it's a pretty good tip, because that way you don't even have to hover over the item. And if you don't see a Hyperion there, I mean, it's blatantly obvious. Oh yeah, just something else real quick. You should subscribe to the channel. Become part of the 22%. Don't get me wrong, the trade menu scams can definitely catch people out, but it's usually the newer players who are going to fall for this. When it comes to the more, let's say, experienced Skyblock players who may have a lot more to scam, i.e. a lot more items that a scammer may find attractive, then, well, they need to become a little bit more sneaky and a little bit more manipulative. Now, this scam is what I call the trust scam. And basically, the idea is that the scammer builds up trust with the person who he's going to scam to a point where the person, well, the victim, it just feels comfortable giving somebody items just to use, just to borrow. It may just simply be the co-op, but the scammer's real intentions obviously are to scam, not just to play Skyblock with them. Now, I've heard first-hand accounts. I'm not going to share this story because it is from quite a while ago, and I don't really know if the person wants me to say who it is. But essentially, somebody befriended them and pretended to be the friend for around about 2 to 3 months. When they built up some trust, they were in the co-op and everything, there was nothing suspicious, and essentially one day, the scammer was just like, yo, can I borrow this item? Or borrow a few items. I think it was a Hyperion. It was a few billion. I think it was around 3 or 4 billion worth of stuff that they borrowed. As to me, that's a bit sketchy. I wouldn't be comfortable with someone else just using, you know, that high value of a thing or items. But maybe if you trust someone that much, you're just going to give them the items. And that's precisely what happened. The scammer added them, they blocked them on everything, and they just took all the items to themselves and transferred it onto a different profile. And to be honest, if that happens, probably 99% of the time, you're hopeless. You're completely helpless. I honestly think this is probably the lowest point of a Hypixel Skyblock player's life. Imagine you are the scammer, and you pretend to be friends with someone for 2 or 3 months, and then, I'm basically not actually wanting to be a friend. I'm just trying to scam you for 4 billion Skyblock coins. You are a freak if you do that, let's be honest. But this is very real, this does happen. Anyway, let's take to the Discord. Now, co-op scams are very similar to trust scams. Obviously, you would trust the person that you're a co-op with. My co-op who I was good friends with took everything, voided it, and then left after giving over 3 million coins away. I guess that's very similar to a trust scam. You trust the person that you're a co-op with, you know, voided everything and give 300 mil away. That just sounds like straight up griefing, but at the same time, it is a scam. Now, the next scam that I'm going to talk about may seem stupid to some people, but people do genuinely fall for it. So if you ever go into a hub or just a lobby, sometimes you might see people saying, the last bid on my auction gets a certain thing or whatever it is. Usually it's quite a valuable item, maybe like some sort of armor or weaponry, and people genuinely bid on it. Now, it is very, very extremely rare that this is ever going to be legitimate. Let's be honest, if someone's actually quitting the game and they're just giving stuff away, they'll just give it away. They're not going to want coins for it. Honestly, like, for a lot of the scams, the only thing I can really say is just sort of use your brain a little bit. Not saying that you're not using your brain, but just apply your brain a little bit, because a lot of the time it can quite easily be prevented. And really, just don't trust anyone. That's my best advice. So I'm back in my Discord, and I'm just going to take a look through some more scams that people have basically put forward. Another not quite a scam that I've lost coins to is auction items that look similar to valuable items and hoping that somebody buys it. This isn't as prevalent now that the enchanted books are on the bazaar. Once again, it's not a traditional scam, but it kind of is a scam. I remember when I was doing my Dirt to Hyperion series, not Dirt, it was Wheat to Hyperion, it was quite a while ago. I accidentally bought a 10 mil Midas staff thinking it was a 100 mil Midas staff and wasted like 100 million coins. Completely my fault, because obviously I should have been more vigilant and should have looked at it again. But I don't know, it's probably not I mean, it kind of is a scam, but it's not a traditional one. Like I said before, scammers are getting much more creative because they have to. A lot of the old scams people already are vigilant and watch out for, but some of the newer scams are just not the case. Of course, people have probably been scammed in many, many other ways. Let me know in the comments if there's anything like this has happened to you before. But anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed. If you have, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.